Hi, Algebra 3 again. This time what you need in front of you are the next part of the notes, and that is going to be standard form. Now, it's going to be just a little bit more than standard form. We're going to throw in some word problems as well, but we're going to be working on standard form, the third and final way you have to learn how to write the equation of a line, and then let's do some word problems. And so this is the first part of your notes. We have example A and example B, and we need to turn this into standard form. And standard form, to me, standard form is not helpful at all. It just looks pretty. I take that back. There are certain times when it is helpful, but for right now, especially when we're writing like systems of equations, this is a very helpful form. But all you need to know is that A, B, and C represent numbers and integer numbers. We don't want to write anything in fractions because that's what standard form is. It's the pretty way to write the equation of a line. So what happens if you are given a slope-intercept form and you're asked to convert it to standard form? Well, let's try. Let's just try this. So I'm given y equals 2x plus 7, and I want to turn that into standard form. So notice on standard form here, let me get my spotlight going here. Right here, the y's and the x's are on the same side of the equation. So instead of like trying to get x or y by itself, we're actually trying to get x to be at the same side. So I am going to subtract 2x. Hang on, guys. I'm going to, let me clear all my drawings off here. Okay. I'm going to subtract 2x from each side because I want my x's and my y's to be on the same side. Now, when I move my 2x to the other side, please note that I can't combine the negative 2x and y. Those are different variables. And so what I end up with, and I'm always going to try to leave x in the front because that's the way it should be written. So my 2x stays here. I have a positive y. Okay, and then I come down here, and what's left on this right-hand side is 7. And that's literally it, guys. That's all you have. So right here, the equation of our line is negative 2x plus y equals 7. And I'm going to try to make that just a little bit bigger. There we go. And that's what it looks like. Notice, not anything too challenging. But we're going to throw fractions at you. Please don't panic when we throw fractions at you. If you were in my Algebra 1, you would often hear me say, if you don't like the way a math problem looks, change it. If you don't like this 1/2, then change it. So I do what's called clearing the fractions. If this is divided by 2, then I have to multiply every single term by 2, and that includes this y. Okay, so that's going to be the first thing I do. And so when I multiply by y, I'm left with this. I'm left with 2y equals, now think about what happens to 1 times 2 is 2, but 2 divided by 2 is 1. This reduces to 1, and you're left with x. But now I have 8 times 2, which is 16. Now, to me, that looks so much nicer to work with than having to move a half and then convert everything. So I'm going to leave it like that, and then we're back to where we were in example 1. I now have to move my x over. Okay? And when I move my x over, I'm left with negative x, and I will say sometimes you're not supposed to write it with negatives, but for right now, I'm going to leave it. Plus 2y equals 16. Now notice in the original equation, there is no 16. You have to do that. You can't write your standard form. You cannot write that in any, there are no fractions in standard form. It's called the beautiful one because it gets rid of all the fractions. Now helpful, it might not be. So that's how you write something in standard form. We'll be using standard form when we do more of our systems of equations, but that's what it looks like. The x's and y's on one side and a number on the other. Notice you don't know slope, okay? When you just look at standard form, you don't really know slope. Okay, so now that you have these three methods, we're going to now take a look at, okay, we're going to take a look at, okay, point slope. Sorry, here we go again. We're still doing standard form, but this time we're going to do point slope. So I gave you an equation in point slope form. You now have to convert it to standard form. Okay, so let me come back here. I was all ready to jump into guys, to jump into word problems. So point slope form, it's going to be very much the same, except for you have this extra step right here. You have to distribute, and then everything else will be the same. So it's going to be y plus 2 equals 4x, okay, 4x minus 3. All right, and you know what? I think I am going to erase that, guys, and I'm going to just type it out because my handwriting is not getting very good right here. So you would have y plus 2 equals 4x minus 12. Okay, so now what are you going to do? Well, we have to go back to, we need all of our x's and y's on the same side. So I'm going to subtract 4x, and I'm going to always try to do this in red. So I'm going to subtract 4x from each side. Now, when I subtract 4x from each side, I can't combine the 4x with anything on that left side because they're not like terms. So again, I think I'm going to type that out, and you get negative 4x. I'll go back to blue so we can at least be similar. Okay, so it'll be negative 4x plus y plus 2 equals negative 12. Okay, so now I have this. I now have to get rid of that negative 2, or I have to get rid of the positive 2, so I'm going to subtract it from both sides. So it looks like this, and my answer is going to be negative 4x plus y equals a negative 14. And there's my answer. Ooh, let's see if I can make it blue. I forgot to make it blue. There we go. And that is your standard form. So what happens with example B? Oh, again, I'm going to throw in some fractions for you. If you don't like the way a problem looks, change it. So I'm going to choose to multiply everything by 4. And when I mean everything, I mean every term. So every term you have to multiply by 4 to get rid of that fraction. So terms are separated by plus, minus, and equal signs. So this y is a term, this 5 is a term, but this whole thing, because it's being multiplied, that whole thing equals a term. So when I multiply by 4, here's what I get. I get 4y. I like it blue, so we'll do 4y plus 20 plus 20 equals, well, the 1/4 times 4 just cancels out, and it's equal to x minus, and I can leave it in terms of parentheses, x minus 3. Doesn't that look a lot cleaner and nicer than having to deal with 1/4? Yeah, absolutely. So just clear out the fractions. Okay, but now I have to get my x to the other side, so I'm going to subtract x from each side. Again, I can't combine that x with anything because it's not they're not the same on those like terms, so I get this. Okay, all right, my next step then is to, oh, I didn't want to make that big line there, guys. So let me retype that. So you get negative x plus 4y plus 20 equals negative 3. Okay, now I can do this. So now I just have to get rid of that negative 20, and there it is. I'm going to subtract 20 from both sides. And what happens when I subtract 20? Well, I still have my negative x, I still have my positive 4y, but on this side, I get a negative 23. And that's standard form. That's what it looks like. All the x's and y's on one side, a number on the other. Looks pretty, helpful. I'll let you guys be the judge of that. Okay. Now we can do what I got all excited to do here. Word problems. So the very first two word problems are going to be in slope-intercept form. So this makes you go back to slope-intercept and think about, okay, what's going to happen in slope-intercept? Y equals mx plus b. So you're looking for m and you're looking for b. So let's look at part 1. You are visiting Baltimore, Maryland, and a taxi company charges you a flat fee of $3. Okay, so that means if you got in the taxi and went nowhere, you'd still owe them $3. Then, that's this guy right here. Let me get my spotlight here. That's that $3. Then you have to pay 75 cents per mile. So those two numbers represent M and B. You have to decide which one is M and B. So remember, M is going to be your change in Y divided by change in X. It's a rate of change. It's a something per something. So the minute you see 75 per mile, you know, oh, I got this. This right here represents my M, which means what's your starting point? What do you have to pay no matter what, regardless if you even go anywhere? If you just sit in the taxi for a second, you still owe them $3. That's your B. Okay, so let's type out our equation. So this is going to be part A. Write an equation that you can use. So we know it's y equals m 0.75x plus my b, which is 3. And that's how you find part A. So part B says, how much would a taxi ride cost for an 8-mile ride? So we have to think about, what does y equal and what does 0.75x, well, what does the x equal? So y represents your total cost and x represents the number of miles. So when they give this to you, that you have 8 miles, that means you have to put these 8 in for x. So it's going to look something like this. All right. So part B, this is what I'm solving. What does y equal when I get 0.75 times 8 plus 3? Okay. Well, and I got to come here to my notes, guys. I swear I did these. Okay. You don't think that only teachers do this? Well, we do. So I have my notes. So in your calculators, with your calculators right now, see if you can figure this out. Okay. So when you take 0.75 times 8 plus 3, you get 9. 9 what? Well, $9. You have to be specific about the units. It's going to cost you $9. Okay, let's look at part C. If a taxi ride cost $15, how many miles did you travel? So if they gave you cost, that means they gave you Y. So C is going to be set up a little bit differently here. So we know C is $15 equals 0.75x plus 3. Okay, so we're working backwards. So subtract 3 from both sides, and you get 12 equals 0.75x, divide by 0.75x, and you get your answer And when you get that, you get this. So I'll do this part here. You get 12.75x. That's how you reduce it. And I will do one more here. And when you divide, you get x is equal to 16. And that's 16 what? Thank you, 16 miles. I know you were answering at home. Okay, so pretty straightforward. Find your M and B, use them, plug them in, you got it. Okay, we're going to take a look at the next one. Example 2, pause the video here, try this one, and we'll talk about it when we get back to class. All right, 2 more examples, guys, and then you'll be done with these notes. But this time, we're going to be looking at what kinds of questions will you get if you're going to set up your equations in point-slope form. Okay, so this is a little bit different. So point-slope form is basically you're probably going to be given maybe a slope and 2 points, or maybe just 2 points. You got to really read the questions on this one. So let's take a look. While on vacation in Washington, D.C., the cab for the Dulles Airport to the hotel is 15 miles. The cab costs $25.50. The cabbie charges $1.50 per mile for the entire trip. Write an equation. Well, before I even write an equation, guys, I'm going to come over here off to the right, and I'm going to think about what it means. So again, slope is a rate of change. So our slope here is $1.50 per mile. That's my slope, okay? All right, but I'm looking for point slope form, so that must mean I have a point in there. Well, I do, okay? I have that it charges $1.50 per mile for the entire, okay, for that entire trip, but it's going to cost me $25.50 for 15 miles. Okay, so 15 miles, remember, 15 represents our x because miles is our x, and 25.50 is our y. So that's our point. And I might come over here and I might write point. So there is our slope, point slope. That's all we need to do this problem. So now let's come over here and write A. So A is y minus 25.50, because that's y1, equals my slope of 150 times x minus x1, which is 15. And there it is. That is our equation. Okay? So now it says, what is the flat rate of the cab? So the flat rate of the cab is really the y-intercept, meaning you don't even go anywhere. You go no miles, but you sit in the cab. How much do you owe the taxi driver? Okay, so let's talk about this one. How do we figure that out? Well, this is where you have to get good at going back and forth between point slope and y equals mx plus b. So the first thing you have to do is you have to change this into y equals mx plus b, which means distribute. So let's do this one, guys. We have y minus 25.50 equals, now I'm just going to distribute that $1.50. Now it's $1.50 times x. Well, I don't know. We're going to find out here real quick. So $1.50 times 15 is $22.50. So it's a negative $22.50. Okay. So then I have to, oh, sorry guys. I'm going to erase that real quick. I'm going to go over that because that I forgot it wasn't equals and that was looking really confusing and I don't want to confuse you. It's y minus. That equals $1.50x minus 22.50. Okay, so I need this to say y equals mx plus b. Ooh, and I'm going to move. Oh, guys, I just messed up. Well, I thought I was going to cover it, but it didn't. So ignore that big jumbled mess there, guys. Ignore it. I'm going to retry it. This is what you get when you try technology late at night. There we go. I need this to be y equals mx plus b. So now I'm going to add my $25.50 over. Okay. I'm going to add it over here. I can combine these like terms. So I'm just really adding what's negative 2250 plus 2550. And that is going to give me my y equals mx plus b. So now let's look at it. We got y equals 1.5x. And then what is 2250? If we have 2550 minus 2250, oh, that's $3 plus 3. So we really technically have not answered part B yet. So let me actually answer part B. So part B says, what is the flat rate of the cab? Meaning, what's the starting point of the y equals mx plus b? So that's the y-intercept. So the flat rate is going to be the y-intercept, which is $3. But notice you had to turn that into y equals mx plus b first to get to that. Whew, that was a lot of work. Okay, so how much does it cost to travel 7 miles in a cab? Well, let's do part C. Part C, I want to do 7 miles. Now at this point, you can either put it back into point slope or you can use your y equals mx plus b. I like to use my y equals mx plus b. It's a little bit less numbers. So I'm going to put in 150 times 7 plus 3 equals, that looks like it's going to be 1350 according to my notes. Okay. That was a lot of craziness for one problem. Okay, stop the video, and I want you guys to try example number 2 on your own. Okay, see if you can figure out parts A, B, and C, and we'll do those together in class. We'll come check these notes together in class. All right, guys, thanks for hanging in there with linear, and we'll see you soon to finish it off.